Okay. At the beginning of chapter 6, you made the statement of, on the summer of 1955, you were 16 then, and the beginning of the vaccination of the mass polio began. What is your short intake on that?
Best thing I can say about that is very positive, kind of split. Positive in one sense that to know that they've figured out how to deal with polio. There were some other inoculations that kids were getting already. They had eliminated, I think, smallpox before that, and kids got vaccinated for chickenpox and mumps and a few other things, and now polio is being added to the list, so kids shouldn't get polio anymore. The part that kind of got me thinking was, too bad that that didn't happen 15 years earlier. I could have saved all my hospital experience and polio experience and grew up like what I call other kids. But I had some good experiences also, so I was glad to see that it got taken care of, that polio is not going to be a problem forever. Somehow they're learning to understand it, and they're going to take care of it.
Yes, and we are all glad that that was taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Well, today it's moving along so good that I think we're down to 3 countries have polio cases left yet, and they figure in about 3 years it'll be wiped out worldwide. So
And that's good news.
I'm hoping I can be around when that happens, because that's going to be great.
It will be. How was the whole biggest operation of your life going on at that time? How did that go? And was it great to get out finally?
Are you saying for my whole life or my young life? Because I had 2 big operations in the last decade also. Could you clarify that? Did you mean my young life? The big one was I was trying to straighten my good leg out after all the surgeries are on it. In other words, that wasn't even a polio problem. Do you realize that they did more operations on my good leg than they did on my bad leg, my polio leg?
I read that.
I only discovered that when I was doing my book and counting up the surgeries and that I didn't realize it as a young kid. I was going into the hospital getting all these surgeries to fix my leg that was affected by polio. But when all the dust settled, I realized they had done more operations on the good leg than they did on the bad one. And so, yeah. Well, my whole life was, how should I say, my whole young life was wrapped up in going back and forth to the hospital and dealing with getting disconnected at home. I'd be gone from the hospital, so now I get disconnected from home and my classmates. I make friends in the hospital. Now I go back home and I get disconnected from my friends in the hospital and have to try to reconnect with people at home. That was not pleasant at all. So finally, after I'm just about out of high school, I think I'm a senior, my folks get a letter from the doctor saying it looks like I'm all done. Don't need any more. There's nothing more they can do.
Okay.
It felt good on one hand, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, geez, this sure took a long time. It screwed up my whole grade school and high school. Now when I'm all done with that, then they tell me I don't need any more surgeries.
Yeah. But you had a couple more after that, didn't you?
In the last decade. And as a youngster, no. And
Okay.
I did not have any more surgeries until I had a back operation about, I suppose, 10 years ago. And I had another knee operation about 6 years ago. In fact, the knee operation, they did in one operation, the one I told you about that had 5 trips to the operating room to straighten my leg. That, as a kid, that time they only brought it back 3 degrees. That's documented in the book and the medical records. So they were just glad to get done with me and get the leg back to where I could walk on it, but they still hadn't have it straight. So it became a problem about 6 years ago, to the point where I couldn't hardly walk anymore because it was crooked off to the side and tending to want to get worse. So they had to straighten it. And this time they did it in one operation, no cast, and only 2 days in the hospital.
Yeah, it's much different from then.
Just much different, and no pain. No pain, anywhere through the whole thing. I
Much-
was laying in the
much
hospital.
less pain.
I told my wife, I feel like I'm laying in a motel room. I mean, I'm just comfortable. No pain.
Was it exhilarating when you climbed that rope in the barn?
Yeah, that was a high. That was a high indescribable.
Did your parents find out?
No, never told them.
They never found
To
out
this day, I never told them, no.
until they read your book, I bet.
They never read my book because they both died before this book was done, too. I had never told my brother either. I never told anybody because nobody saw it. And I figure if I did tell well, I don't know. After that, I got busy with, I told in the book why I didn't tell my dad. I didn't tell my dad I did it because if he said, if you feel that strong, here, I got this job for you, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of kept me from telling him. If I told my brother, he'd probably said, oh, you did not. And so then what do you do? So I figured I don't gain anything by telling anybody. I just know I did it. But that's how a lot of things were in my life that at that time were
Well-
solitary experiences. I was doing things by myself, whether it was reading books in the library, playing with the dog, climbing the rope, doing things. A lot was by myself. So that was just a fantastic, good experience that I did by myself.
What was racing through your mind during that time?
I just wanted to see if I could do it. I just thought it'd be cool if I could do it. I don't know, I hadn't planned very long to do it. I just thought, well, I think maybe what started it was a couple of years before that, I had seen a neighbor kid climb up the rope once to take a bird nest out of that carrier up at the top. We were going to haul hay. And Dad was going to go get a ladder, and he says, I'll climb up there and get it out. So he just shimmied up the rope, took the bird nest out, came back down. So I had seen somebody do it. I don't think he could have done it a second time either. But anyway, so the fact that I did it, and without using my legs, just using my hands were strong. I knew my arms were strong, but I thought that'd be a nice challenge. I should be able to do that, just for the heck of it. You know, you do a lot of things as a kid. As a lark, you want to see if you could climb a tree, or you want to see if you could run across the street without getting hit, or you want to, there's a lot of things you do just to see if you can do it. And I wanted to see if I could climb that rope.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of satisfaction out of it.
Sort of a self-dare.
A self-dare, and also even the rest of that day, the rest of that evening, I can remember probably going to sleep with a grin on my face. A very positive experience, very uplifting experience. I thought I could do it, I did it, and I feel good about it. And so I guess it built my confidence.
Now, in chapter 7, you started going to college. Did you dislike it most of the time?
When I went to college, out of high school, at the time, I don't think I was ready for it. Looking back on it now. Looking back on it, I even admit that I did not want to be at that college. It just happened to be close by, and my dad had gone to high school at St. John's, and a lot of the kids from Cold Spring went to St. John's, so I just got kind of sucked into, it was automatic.
What did you hate about it most?
What did I hate? But that I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel a part of it. I guess I didn't feel like I wanted to be there, so I did not get involved in any activities. I did not feel like I could compete. I had a hard time making friends. I had a hard time, I don't know, I wasn't ready for it. I was kind of immature, I guess, also. I didn't know what I wanted to do or why I was in college. It was the next year after high school, so I went off and did it.
So it wasn't hard to quit college? at all?
Oh, it was traumatic. For me, it took a couple of months to come to grips with it. That in my sophomore year, in my second year, from day one, I had heard about an exercise that the history teacher makes students do, a written exercise that they have to do. And I had decided that I'm not going to do that. I don't care if it means I flunk history. I'm not going to do it. But it came to that fall where the class started. I did not even go to the class. I was signed up for a history class. I was paying for it. And you talk about people going to class and then cutting a lot of classes. I did not go to the first class. I have no idea where the class was even, or what it was. I just, for some reason, got it in my head that I don't want to take that history class. And I couldn't graduate without that history class. So I think I was already subconsciously trying to figure out how I could get out of there. Maybe they'd kick me out or something. I don't know. But I did not go to history. I did not go to that sophomore history class one day. And by after Christmas, when we got past the middle of the year, I started seriously thinking about quitting. And finally it dawned on me that's what I had to do. Then I felt kind of uplifted after that, because it was a lot of anxious thinking about whether I should quit or not. But once I made the decision to do it, then it was kind of uplifting. Then I could just move on with that.
And what made you decide to go to the University of Minnesota then?
I knew a bunch of students from St. John's that after the first year transferred to the university, kids that I knew even. So I knew that that was a viable option, that if you had 1 year at St. John's, you could easily go to the university and continue your education. So I actually, part of my motivation was I got a job working in a cheese plant that summer, and in the fall, I got a job on road construction. And I thought I had a pretty good job. Road construction, man, I thought that'd be pretty good. I knew that bulldozer drivers and crane operators and machine operators get pretty good pay, especially if the economy is good. So I got a job on road construction, and I felt privileged because most new guys end up with a shovel in their hand and doing a lot of the shovel work. And I got to drive a tractor from day one, and I think it was partly because of the foreman was aware of my polio situation. So I felt pretty lucky, but they had me driving a Packer out by Clara City, Minnesota, Highway 23, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, packing the gravel. And I think there, after about the third day of that job, I got to thinking, if this is what road construction is like, this is worse than cultivating corn, which I thought was a pretty bad job on a farm. So for boredomness, it just got me thinking about maybe I should go back to school. And so then I started thinking about the university. It turns out the university starts late in the fall, in September, where a lot of the other schools started earlier. I could work until late in September and then go to the university. So I decided to do that.